Hey there, this is Ron, and by several requests actually, I've been asked to talk about what is subordination and how can I use it with houses. So I'm going to do that lesson right now. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. You're definitely going to need to take notes. You're probably going to want to do a lot of screenshots, and if you get everything I'm about to say, I'm going to be surprised. So you're likely going to have to go watch this video 2 or 3 times. So let's get started. I'm going to go through the entire process with you because this technique has made me a lot of money, both in residential and in commercial for that matter. The technique works in both. We're going to use a simple house here though and get going on that. I'll do my best to do it slowly so you can get it. Alright, I have a house with a $200,000 ARV. ARV stands for after repaired value, which means in gorgeous condition this house would sell for about $200,000. The seller is asking $150,000 because it needs $25,000 worth of repairs. Their loan balance is zero. The house is free and clear. So I got a seller who knows their house is ugly, knows it needs a lot of work. In fact, $25,000 to that seller looks like probably $50,000 to a normal person. This is one ugly house. And the seller's got a problem. They need $40,000 to do whatever with, and that is their hot button. They don't mind taking back some of the equity on a note, but they need $40,000. Okay, I'm not going to write them a $40,000 check unless I buy the house very, very cheap, which is one of the offers we could be making simultaneously to a subordination offer, but I wouldn't pay them anywhere near what I'm willing to pay them if they will work with me with some owner financing. The seller needs $40,000 cash and the house needs $25,000 worth of work. So there's $65,000 worth of cash that should be raised on this property and built within your offer. So what I'm about to show you is how to raise the cash on the seller's own asset to pay the seller and do the repairs, so you have absolutely no money in this deal. And in fact, not only will you have no money in the deal, you'll be bringing home a check the day you buy the house. And I bet you could get used to that. How would you like to go buy houses and get a check every time you buy one? Well, I used to do this all the time, actually. In fact, in commercial, I did it on about 10 different projects in several different states as well. So my offer, this is where you got to pay real close attention. So if you're groggy, slap yourself. If you need to go take a pill or something, go ahead and do it, because I'm going to get pretty complicated here now. I'm going to offer them $130,000, but I'm going to take the house as is, where it is, and my offer is going to include a $40,000 down payment, because that's the hot button for the seller, and I know if they don't get 40 grand, I'm not buying this house. The seller's willing to take 40 now and wait for a while on their 90. So 40 plus 90 equals 130. 40 down means I owe the seller 90. Now here is what makes it subordination. I'm going to ask the seller to go in second position behind a new first that I'm going to put on the house to get me the money to take care of the house and the seller. So the seller has got to subordinate or go into second position, which is what subordination means for this to work. If the seller will not subordinate, then this offer simply won't work. I get the seller to agree to take back a second mortgage on the property, which the attorney prepares, incidentally. You will never do one of those. At no payments and no interest, with a 3 to 5 year balloon. And before I go any further, if that's bothering you, about 80% of the seller carryback notes that I've done over the years have been with no payments and no interest. So get over it. This seller is not concerned about payments and interest. And if they are, I can work with them because I've got room to get them a little payment if I have to. But I'll tell you, anybody that will subordinate will most certainly take back a second mortgage with no interest. It's just a matter of making it part of your offer. I don't ask them if they'll do it. I'll say, this is how I can buy your house. Remember, buyers make the rules. Sellers take them, counter them, or don't take them. We're giving this seller a way out that nobody else is going to be smart enough to do. So, I guess you can see why the seller's having a hard time selling their house for all cash. They'd sell it for all cash, but way below their asking price. And they've probably already had offers from investors that way below their asking price, but this seller's not going to give away, half the equity in the house, so this is plan 2. All right. So again, they've got to agree to go in second position now. This is important because now I'm going to go get a $75,000 private money loan from an individual. That's got to be in first position. A $75,000 first on a $200,000 house is a very, very safe loan-to-value ratio, and that's why I need it to be in first, so that a private lender don't even have to think twice about making this loan. Anybody with $75,000 sitting around would be thrilled to make a first mortgage at 8% interest, interest-only payments at $500 a month, and I'm going to do what I can to get at least 5 years. I'm going to tell you right now, individuals will gladly give you 5-year notes on these houses. If you deal with mortgage brokers and loan sharks, you'll never get 5 years. I'm not asking you to go to any of those to get the money. You go get this from a private individual who's got $75,000 in their IRA or any other place, and they'd like to get about 16 times what the bank is paying them on their bank account. This is not a hard sell at all. So I'm going to get this offer accepted in writing, and then I'm going to go find somebody that'll loan me 75 on the first. Remember, this is first, this is second. Seller's got to go in second position, so my loan-to-value ratio here is about less than 40% of the 200. And so that makes this lender well secured. Now, out of that $75,000 is going to come the $40,000 down payment, and I'm going to set aside the $25,000 for repairs. It's in my escrow account. I'm going to set it aside, and I'm not going to spend it. Let me say that again. We're going to set that $25,000 aside, and we are not going to spend it. It is set there for repairs. Now, we may or may not repair this house. I'll get to that in a second. But the money needs to be set aside to repair this house and not touched until this house is gone. Again, do not spend money that is not yours unless you're looking to create your own problem. You need to put this money over there. I know what, guys. Ladies, if you're listening, make sure that he puts this in an account that requires both of your signatures. That'll solve that problem. He won't go get the money. There you go. Guys, sorry, I had to do it. All right, so if I borrow 75 and I need 65 to get the job done, it means I'm going to come home from the closing with a check for $10,000 less whatever closing cost. So before you get all confused and discombobulated, let me show you how easy this closing is. Step one, we got to get a purchase and sale agreement signed by the seller, showing that that 90 is in second position. Step two, we got to line up the private money. Okay? Once we got the private money lined up, your private lender will send the attorney $75,000. Once that 75 is in the attorney's bank account, then we tell the attorney to set it up for closing. The attorney will create a deed from the seller to you. He'll create a $75,000 first mortgage for your private lender, and then he'll create a $90,000 second mortgage back to your seller, all done at the same closing table. You don't need to worry about all that stuff. The only thing you got to do is a purchase and sale agreement showing the terms as we laid them out here. That's one sheet of paper, front and back, and you'll find that right on the Gold Club site under Resources and Purchase and Sale Agreement. Okay? All right. So, we brought home 10 grand the day we bought the house, because you see, the day we bought the house is the day all this was done. We haven't sold the house yet. So I'm $10,000 less closing costs to the good already, and $25,000 in my account in case I want to do the repairs. So look, now I owe 75 on a first and 90 on a second. I've offered my private lender $500 a month now, interest-only payments, because that's what 75,000 times 8% divided by 12 equals $500 a month. So in a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, I'll still owe my private lender $75,000, but he will be collecting payments along the way. So I owe 75 on a first, and I owe 90 on a second. So I owe total of $165,000 on this $200,000 house once it's renovated. Now keep in mind, I've got $25,000 of this money in an escrow account. Plus, I've already collected 10 that I can call my own. So I'm cash flow ahead. I got money set aside for repairs, and look at this monthly cash flow. Well, I'll go to that here in just a second. So, are you with me so far? Have I lost you so far? All right, well, I'm going to finish, and then you can go back and play it all over again, 6 or 8 times, however many it takes. All right, now let's move over here to the exit board, because what are my exit strategies? Why am I doing this? I have actually three. Number one, put it up here. Elliot, I do not want, stop, you're reading the bottom. Stop it right now. Read the top, put it up there, Elliot. One at a time. Okay, number one, I could take my $25,000 and I could renovate the house. And then I could put it on the market, advertising from one of those qualified buyers, which there are only 19% of the people looking for a house can qualify for a loan. And you got to know, this is my least favorite exit strategy, but it is an option if you want to do it. So I get the house renovated, put it on the market, like all the other realtors and builders in town, and looking for that qualified buyer. I find that qualified buyer at $200,000, because remember, that was the ARV after repair, and I've already done the repairs. So let's look at my cash flow. I got $10,000 from the loan, and I got $35,000 minus closing costs when I'm cashed out, because I sold it for $200,000, and if you remember, I owe a total of $165,000 here, so I only get the difference. But again, that's minus closing costs and holding costs. I'm guessing if you take this route, you will wind up somewhere in the neighborhood, my best guess, $30,000 total net profit. Because by the time you do this and hold this property and pay taxes, insurance, and maintenance and all of that, and then pay cost of selling the property, I guarantee you $15,000 of that $200,000 sales price is going to evaporate. Which is one reason why this is my least favorite way to do this, but it is an option. Okay, now let's go to Plan 2 and Plan 3. Plan 2 and Plan 3 I like a lot better. My favorite course is going to be Plan 3. But Elliot, don't show them Plan 3 yet. Can't see it, can't look. All right, here's Plan 2. What if we take our money that's in our escrow account and we rehab and lease option the property to a tenant buyer that we can get approved 6, 8, 10, 12, 18 months down the line. They have credit issue now, so we send them to screenthetenant.com. He'll clean up their credit for them. He'll tell you whether they're worthy. He'll give you the debt ratio and the whole thing for $50 lousy. Screenthetenant.com. He charges $99 a month to clean up their credit and does a tremendous job. Charges you $50 to get a whole report on them to see if you even want them to begin with. So I like them, but I'm going to put them in the house. I'm going to sell it to them for the $200,000, but I'm going to put them in the house on a lease purchase with at least a $15,000 non-refundable option deposit. And guys, there's no way I'd put somebody in a $200,000 freshly renovated house with less than $15,000 non-refundable option deposit. I'm not saying you have to. You can knock it down to 10 if you want to, but personally, I don't have any trouble getting the 15 on a freshly renovated house. We'll put them in there $1,500 a month rent with a 2-year term. So we lease option it to them for 2 years, giving them plenty of time to clean up whatever they need cleaned up. Of course, we're going to be helping them do that along the way, because our exit strategy with this house is to cash out. We're going to get Paul Ritter at screenthetenant.com to help us get them to a conclusion. And in fact, he'll even take them and get them a loan after he's got them loan ready. And in the meantime, they're sitting here paying you $1,500 a month, and they've already given you $15,000 down. So now let's look at your cash flow on this one. I got $10,000 from the loan. Remember, I borrowed $75,000. I only needed $65,000. $40,000 for the seller, $25,000 for repairs. I got a $15,000 deposit down from the buyer. I got $10,000 cash flow on my monthly payments. $1,000 a month, sorry, for however many months it's out there, which kind of makes a case for letting it take longer, not shorter. See, a $1,500 payment coming in and a $500 payment going out means that I got a $1,000 a month difference minus taxes and insurance, because I do have to pay those along the way. Okay? And then of course I get $35,000 when it's cashed out. My buyer, that's not true, because my buyer's already given me $15,000, so that number's incorrect. Since my buyer's $15,000 has got to be applied toward the $200,000, then he only owes me $185,000, so I get $20,000 on the back end, not $35,000. I get $20,000, the difference between the $200,000 that I sold it for and the $165,000 loans that I owe, minus the $15,000 that he's already given me. So, as you can see, I get cash flow all along the way. So here's the important thing. Up here, I got at least 6 months before I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get the $10,000 now the day I close the purchase. But I'm not getting that $35,000 till months later. In the meantime, I got to write checks for all this stuff going on, which is going to come from my 10 grand. Down here, I'm going to renovate it. So I'm still a month or two away from selling it. But I get $10,000 from the loan, then I get a $15,000 hit from my tenant buyer. That really helps cash flow. And then on a monthly basis, $1,000 a month, that also helps cash flow. And then the $20,000 comes on the back end, but if you'll notice, my back end cash out amount is not my biggest payday here. My biggest paydays are from the front end. I should have this in hand within a couple months. I should have this in hand the day I close. And this, of course, monthly. So that's a plan. Now, let's go to plan 3, which is my favorite. Let's see if you can see why it's my favorite. There'll be a test when this is over. All right. My favorite is a work for equity lease option, which means I'll find a tenant buyer that wants to do the work with their money and their labor in exchange for some equity. Thus the term work for equity. I don't touch the house. I put them in there as is, where is. They're fully responsible for all of the repairs from day one. It's a condition of their purchase, and it's built into our agreement, which incidentally is a very special agreement on your Gold Club site, under resources, under work for equity. If you put a tenant buyer in there on this, you must make sure you use that agreement now, because it clearly states that a condition of the purchase is that I accept the responsibility for the repairs. All right, I'm going to sell this one to them for $185, not $200, because it's not repaired. But you say, Ron, it needs $25 in repairs. Then I'll say, class, it does if I renovate it, not if they renovate it. You see, they're not going to do the stuff I do. They're not going to put granite marble countertops in it. They're not going to do all the fancy stuff. They're not going to put a new kitchen in it if the old one's savable. They're going to go in there and spend money only where they need to spend it, only to satisfy their taste, and they're all they got to do is buy materials, and they got months and months to get it fixed while we're cleaning up their credit or whatever other issue they have. The $25,000 that I would spend, they can probably get by with $3,000 or $4,000 out of pocket over the coming months to get this house in shape to get it financed. So they look at it differently than I look at it. So for me to give them $15,000 off the current value, and more importantly, help them buy by making it easy for them to do it, because I'll help them clean up their credit or whatever while they're fixing the house. You can't do that normally. You can't do that when you go buy a house through a realtor or through a builder. They get a cheaper price, and they get assistance along the way, and they get to live in the house with the option to buy it and call it their own while they're doing their own work. Plus they get to fix it the way they want it, not the way we thought they wanted it. I'm going to give them credit. I'm going to give them a little discount on rent. I'll charge them $1,200 in my example. I don't know what I'm going to charge them until the market tells me, because I'm not going to name this number until I ask them how much can they pay per month. Let's say it's $1,200, and I'm going to give them a 2-year window to get all this done, which is ample time. If you recall over here, I got a 5-year balloon on my private loan here, and I got a 5-year balloon on that loan going back to that seller, 3 to 5 years. I got plenty of time, but I'm not going to stretch it out to the end. In this case, I'll give them 2 years to get all this done, and I've never met a buyer that didn't think they could get it done in 2 years. By the way, if they don't think they can get it done in 2 years, you might want to rethink, do you really want them in the house? Because there's really something horrible wrong. All right, in this case, I'm going to say in my mind, I'm going to accept a $10,000 non-refundable deposit because the house needs some work. And so I'm going to be conservative. I'll tell you right now, I'm not putting anybody in a $200,000 house, even if it needs repairs, with less than $10,000 in my pocket. Not to mention, they're going to give me the first month's rent of $1,200. So I'm going to get $10,000 up front plus first month's rent $1,200 as they're signing the agreements with the attorney to lease option the property as is. So I'm going to get $10,000 from the loan, $10,000 from the deposit, $1,200 from the first month's rent, $700 a month cash flow, that's $1,200 minus the $500 payment, and $10,000 when it's cashed out, because they only owe me $175 here, because they gave me 10. I owe out $165, so I've only got $10,000 coming when I'm cashed out. And remember, I got $25,000 sitting in my escrow account. It's still sitting there because I didn't do the repairs. So when this thing is sold, and I would strongly suggest you wait till it's sold to go tap into that money. But when this house is sold, that's my money. I'm going to go get it out of that escrow account. But I'll tell you one thing, it feels good to have it sitting there, for sure. Now, watch this. Up here, I got to pay short-term capital gains. I'm selling it in the same year I bought it. Short-term capital gains. That means I'm going to pay 40% income tax plus state tax on that measly profit that I'm going to make there. Down here, on either of these two, assuming I hold it for at least a year, it's long-term capital gains, and the maximum tax on long-term capital gains is 20%. I'm paying half the taxes. I'm making a lot more money. I'm getting somebody in the house a whole lot faster. I'm cutting off all my holding costs and hopefully eliminating my repair cost. You know, it only took me 20 years to learn this. That's all, just 20 years. What do you think I did for the first 15 years? Right there. Buy, rehab, sell. Buy, rehab, sell. Work, 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 work. Kill golden goose. Kill golden goose. Get a check. Got to go do the next one. Listen to me. This one is better. But you got to have patience, and you got to understand where your cash flow is coming from so you don't have cash flow issues while you're doing it. Anyway, this is work for equity is a subject for another seminar. Right now, I'm still showing you your potential exits for your subordination deal. Now let's go over here and look at some key ingredients. Key ingredient number one is the house must be free and clear or close. You remember, I can't do this if the house is leveraged. Go back here. Now, look here. I'm going to borrow $75,000 on a first mortgage. Well, if this seller owes $100,000, that's impossible. It's impossible because I'd be in second position, and that means that my loan-to-value ratio would be out of whack and it wouldn't work. So remember, the house must be free and clear or close. On the other hand, what if this seller owed $30,000 on a first and only needed $10,000 in cash? Well, then I'd be okay. I'd pay off the first and give the seller their $10,000 with the $75,000 loan. And I'm sure you figured out by now that I actually could borrow a little bit more than $75,000, but you better be careful. You better be careful. I really wouldn't want this house financed for more than that if it's worth $200,000. Do not overfinance the house. Watch your monthly payments going out and make sure that when it's sold, you got plenty of money coming in case Murphy comes in and you find out you have to sell that house for $185,000, not $200,000. Careful. Do not over leverage the house, even if you can. All right. So it's got to be free and clear or close. The seller or the house or both have to have a problem. You're not going to get a subordination offer accepted unless there's some problem that you're solving, like the seller needs cash or it needs some repairs, quite a bit of repairs. If it needs neither, really the seller's going to be very reluctant to do a subordination deal with you. Okay? And I can tell you these work better on the lower end properties than they do on the higher end properties. It can be one of several offers. So just watch this. Whenever I present a subordination offer, this one, I usually attach an all-cash offer to it. My all-cash offer, however, is going to make this offer look real good. Let's say this is a 200R. Mayo is 70% of that minus the repair, so that'd be 140 minus 25 would be 115. My Mayo's 115, and we don't pay anywhere near Mayo. So my all-cash offer would probably be down around 80 on this house. So if the seller wants to take 80 all cash, I'm happy with that. Plenty of room in it. I'll make more money. And honestly, it ain't going to be any more trouble for me to borrow about 120 on this thing than it is the 75 because the lender's still in good shape. So if the seller takes the 80, okay. If the seller doesn't take the 80 and they like this offer better, okay as well. You see, the seller's going to spend so much time trying to figure out which offer they want, it may not occur to them they don't have to take either one of them. So multiple offers is always good. Okay, back over here. So it can be one of several offers, and it usually is. Let the seller pick. And quit trying to think for the seller, folks. Let the seller decide what's best for the seller. You give them something to decide about, and quit trying to second guess everything. All right, I have a work for equity course, because you don't want to do work for equity unless you have this course. You can even use gold clumps, guys. Right on your, if you're a Gold Club member, it's right on your resource site. Go to, it's in your store. Go to your store and look down there for the Work for Equity course, and you can use Gold Club points for it. Oh gosh, this is I think the retail price on this is $497. If you apply Gold Club points to it, you're going to get a really, really good price on this. And if you're on Gold Club, you got Gold Club points. Use them. This is what they're for. Okay? And now I got a wholesale course. If you are watching this video and you are not a Gold Club member, then please go to ronsdollardeal.com and you can download my entire wholesale course for $1. The whole thing. It's a $599 course. And that is the same course that's going to teach you how to buy this property that you want to do this on. So, and of course wholesale them if you want to just wholesale them out and not do any of those exit strategies. So if you are a Gold Club member, then go to ronsdollardeal.com and get it anyway. And if you have an issue with it, let us know, and because you should have already had it if you're a Gold Club member. Now look, if you don't want to download this, then for a very small amount we can ship the whole thing to you as well. You can buy this on this site for 80% off of its value. So gosh, if you have any interest in what I've just said and you don't have this, now would be a good time to get it, because this thing is not going to stay up much longer and it's going to come down. So work for equity course and wholesale course go hand in hand together. This one you can get really cheap, apply points to it. This you can get for free if you want to download it or would have it shipped to you. So with that said, that is my seminar on subordination. And it will not work on every deal. It's just one of the tools in your arsenal. But if you clearly understand it, you'll know when the time is right, when the conditions are right, make it one of your offers, and lo and behold, you will get one accepted, because it won't take long. And honestly, the biggest reason is because most subordination offers that we get accepted require a substantial amount of cash to the seller. And this is the only way, in this case, for us to get that cash to that seller. It's either this, or buy the property all cash at a deeply, deeply discounted price. So I hope that helps. See you soon.